The found footage subgenre of movie has become incredibly popular over the last decade or so, although it's been around since the early 1980s. As a general rule, movies in the genre are either presented as if they were raw and complete, or as if those who found them had edited them into a narrative. Horror movies are generally the most popular type of movies to be presented in the found footage format. The technique has also been used in science fiction and some other genres. In this video, we'll look at 10 of the most creepy theories about found footage horror movies. We dare you to watch it without hiding behind the sofa. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It's the best way of keeping up to date with all of our great new videos. During the video, can you count how many times Bigfoot randomly appears? Stick around until the end to find out if you counted correctly.
These were 9 experienced backpackers. You're telling me that they all got severe hypothermia at the same time on the same night?
The Dyatlov Pass Incident. The Dyatlov Pass Incident, also known as Devil's Pass, was a 2013 UK-Russian found footage movie based on the real-life Dyatlov Pass incident that occurred in the northern Ural Mountains, in what is now Russia, between the 1st of February and the 2nd of February in 1959. 9 experienced ski hikers died in unexplained circumstances, and the movie shows a group of Americans investigating the incident in the modern day. While the movie's explanation for the original group's disappearance revolves around the Philadelphia experiment, wormholes, and teleporting mutants, there are a number of other extremely creepy theories about what really happened 60 years ago. The most common one involving paradoxical undressing. A number of the hikers were found nude, and paradoxical undressing is when the body starts to freeze, nerve damage creating the sensation of overheating, and people often take their clothes off to cool down, even as they're dying of exposure. The thought of a group of delusional people undressing in unison, resulting in them all freezing to death, is seriously creepy. Other theories involve aliens, a yeti, something supernatural, and military experiments other than those depicted in the movie, all of which have convincing counter-arguments. The truth is, we'll probably never know what happened to that group of hikers, and that's the creepiest thing of all.
Because we're making a documentary.
Not about us getting lost, we're making a documentary about a witch.
The Blair Witch Project. 1999's The Blair Witch Project was by no means the first found footage movie, but it was undoubtedly the movie that put the genre on the path to being as popular as it is today. The movie followed 3 student filmmakers, Heather Donahue, Michael Williams, and Joshua Leonard, playing fictionalized versions of themselves, as they hiked into the Black Hills near Burkittsville, Maryland in 1994 in order to film a documentary about a local legend known as the Blair Witch. The trio were never found, and their footage apparently depicting their deaths at the hands of the Blair Witch is what the movie is all about. Or is it? This theory suggests that Josh is actually insane, and he is the movie's killer, and it makes a lot of sense. For starters, there's really no evidence of anything supernatural going on. Josh could have easily led the trio on a wild circular goose chase to get Heather and Mike lost and confused, before creating the situation in which he would subsequently kill them. He could have slimed his own equipment with shampoo, left the camp of his own accord, and made the creepy stick figures himself, shaken the tent, cut pieces of his body off to leave outside the tent, screamed to lure Heather and Mike to the old house, and killed them when they got there. Hey, it's more believable than an invisible reality warping witch, right?
You really think your sister could still be out there after all these years?
If there is any chance I could find out what happened to her, I need to try.
Blair Witch. 2016's Blair Witch was the 3rd official film in the Blair Witch series and a direct sequel to the aforementioned 1999 movie, The Blair Witch Project. The movie follows a group of college students and their local guides who, again, venture into the Black Hills Forest in Maryland to uncover the mysteries surrounding the disappearance years ago of Heather Donahue, who just so happens to be the sister of James Donahue, one of the movie's main characters. The sequel supposedly takes place in 2014, with a new group of hikers experiencing all of the horror that Heather, Mike, and Josh did and more. But this theory suggests that the ending actually takes place at the same time as when James and his group come upon the same house that Heather and Mike were killed in. James hears Heather's voice, which lures him inside. It's easy to think that the witch was mimicking Heather to trick him, but according to this theory, it actually was Heather during her final moments in 1994. You see, the theory suggests that the Blair Witch can warp both space and time, which is why she could manipulate the forest and make it seem like it had been dark for weeks, and she was therefore able to transport James's 2014 group back to the scene of Heather's death in 1994. Getting all of your victims in the same place at the same time is an efficient way of doing things, we suppose.
It's unbelievable. It's horrible.
Cannibal Holocaust. Cannibal Holocaust was a 1980 exploitation horror movie about a missing documentary film crew who had gone to the Amazon to film cannibal tribes. Directed by iconic Italian Ruggero Deodato, it's generally considered to have revolutionized the found footage style of filmmaking. It was massively controversial and gained worldwide notoriety for its extreme depiction of violence. The movie also shows the very real killings of animals, which horrified viewers around the world. There was a theory, however, that the whole thing was an actual snuff film. The theory was conceived mainly due to a scene in which a woman was impaled. The special effects were so realistic, especially for the time, that Deodato was genuinely suspected of murdering his cast members. The director was actually forced to explain what really happened on set, and he brought one of his supposedly murdered actors to court to prove that they weren't dead. For the record, in the aforementioned impalement scene, the girl had simply been sitting on a bicycle seat that was fastened to a pole while holding a piece of wood in her mouth. She was totally unharmed by the whole thing. To this day, that hasn't stopped people from believing some of the movie was more real than we've been led to believe.
I'm in Willow Creek, Mecca to the Bigfoot community.
He's all over the place.
Oh, there he is.
Willow Creek. Willow Creek was an independent found footage movie from 2013 about a couple who go into the woods of Willow Creek, California, looking for material for their documentary on Bigfoot lore. They interview locals and hear stories of experiences they've claimed to have had with Bigfoot, as well as stories of people going missing due to the beast, before heading out to obtain their own experience. But they get way more than they bargained for, as you might expect from a found footage horror movie. They hear noises and find bloody strands of hair, which suggests Bigfoot is very real. And there's an uninterrupted 17-minute scene in which the cameras are focused on Jim and Kelly, the main stars, in their tent, which is absolutely terrifying. The movie ends with quite a lot going on, and while many people drew what they deemed to be very obvious conclusions from it, there was no definitive explanation about what was actually happening. And the conclusions drawn are indeed theories therefore. Jim and Kelly encounter an overweight, naked woman bearing a strong resemblance to a missing woman they'd seen on a poster earlier. Jim is then killed off camera and Kelly runs away. Her fate is unknown, but the theory is that she's taken as a forest bride, as was the overweight woman, and was used by Bigfoot to procreate. Some people have even suggested that Kelly's screams at the end of the movie were due to that procreation taking place off camera. Gross.
Are you guys seeing this shit right now? Oh my god! Oh god! Oh god!
Cloverfield. Cloverfield was the brilliant found footage monster movie from 2008. Produced by J.J. Abrams and starring the likes of Lizzie Kaplan, T.J. Miller, and Michael Stahl-David, it is one of the most expensive of all found footage movies ever made. The movie follows 6 young New Yorkers fleeing from a huge monster that seemingly appeared out of nowhere while they were enjoying a farewell party. There are also a number of smaller parasitic creatures living on the larger creature that attack the movie's main characters. But this theory suggests that there were actually 2 giant monsters in the movie. The reason for the theory is simple. At different points in the movie, the monster appears to be 2 completely different sizes. For instance, the monster that attacks the Brooklyn Bridge at the start of the movie has been calculated as being at least 200 feet tall. But later scenes, such as the one in which Hud is killed, suggest the monster is nowhere near that tall. Alas, there must be 2 of them. Moreover, there are scenes where the monsters have very distinct and different looks. One looks older and larger, while the other looks much younger with less scarring and wrinkles. If there aren't 2 of them, this was a pretty big mistake on the part of the filmmakers. Troll Hunter. Troll Hunter was a 2010 dark fantasy found footage movie from Norway. It saw a group of students setting out to make a documentary about a man called Hans, who they initially believed to be a bear poacher, but they would go on to discover that he actually hunted trolls. After they found out the true nature of Hans's work, the troll hunter allowed them to accompany him on some of his hunts on the basis that they did whatever he told them to do. Hans would reveal that he deeply regretted killing so many trolls, including pregnant females and children, and was sick of his work. And given some of the things he had to endure, this came as no surprise. But he just couldn't quit. This theory suggests he found another way out at the end of the movie. Troll Hunter came to a climax with the students accompanying Hans during an encounter with a Jotnar, the largest of all the trolls and one that lives in the mountains. Audiences witness Hans shoot the Jotnar with a rocket that turns it to stone, before he vanishes over a hill, never to be seen again. The theory is that Hans went out of sight to kill himself and had been planning to do so for the whole movie. It's about as bleak a theory that anyone could ever conceive.
Why are you here? Why don't you just leave?
District 9. District 9 isn't a typical horror movie. It's more of a science fiction movie with horror elements, and it's only partially presented in found footage format. But this particular theory is well worth including in this video. The movie is about an extraterrestrial race, known as prawns, who are forced to live in slum-like conditions on Earth, and audiences are introduced to the substance they use as fuel. When Sharlto Copley's Wickus ingests some of it, he begins to transform into a prawn. By the time the movie ends, he's changed into one completely. However, he gets told that there are machines on an alien ship that can change him back. This theory suggests that those machines are commonplace in prawn ships because the fuel affects all biological creatures in the same way. When on long voyages, leaks or accidents can occur which infect those on the ship. The machines were specifically built to counter the infection. However, because the alien ship was in such terrible shape when it arrived on Earth, the leak was so great that it was impossible to change any prawn back to normal, because their air was absolutely saturated with it. Therefore, the prawns we see in the movie are actually the infected forms of another alien race that has been completely transformed after being exposed to the fuel. Who knows what they looked like beforehand?
My girlfriend Katie, she thinks there's something in the house, I don't know.
You believe me, right?
I think we're gonna have a very interesting time capturing whatever paranormal phenomena is occurring or is not occurring.
Paranormal Activity. Paranormal Activity is undoubtedly the most successful found footage franchise in cinematic history. There have been 6 movies in the franchise so far, as well as an unofficial Japanese movie based on the franchise. And there will no doubt be more to come in the future. In the franchise, many of the characters throughout the series have been related. But what are the odds that every group has someone that obsessively records things? This theory suggests that there's a reason for that. It's because the demon is making them record their own deaths. Whether for its own enjoyment, to spread fear, or for another purpose entirely is open for debate. But the idea that a demon might be responsible for the widespread obsessive recording of footage certainly makes sense. Some people might argue that there's always been a reason for the cameras being in place. Micah set up the cameras after Katie told him of her past experiences with the paranormal in the first movie, and in the second, Dan installed cameras following what he presumes was a burglary. But the theory suggests that the demon manipulated those events to prompt the cameras being set up. It is perhaps a little far-fetched, but let's be honest, if you're watching a movie about a haunted house, you're already well on your way to believing just about anything.
The plan from the start was, when we got to the tunnels, was to get to the lake, because that's where the story was.
The Tunnel. The Tunnel is a 2011 Australian found footage horror movie set in the abandoned underground network of railway tunnels in Sydney, New South Wales. The movie follows an investigation into a government cover-up, but as a journalist and her camera crew hunt for the story beneath the city, it quickly becomes clear to them that the story is actually hunting them. What exactly the thing that's hunting them isn't clear, however, but the movie sees the crew getting picked off one by one, without actually revealing the culprit. But there are a number of theories regarding what it might be. Some people believe the creature is some sort of mutant or wartime experiment gone wrong. Others believe it's a good old-fashioned vampire, but the most popular theory is the one about it being a bunyip. And you're probably wondering what the heck a bunyip is. Well, it's a kind of monstrous-looking and very dangerous water spirit from Aboriginal folklore, but it has come to represent so much more over the years. It's now a fascinating emblem of cross-cultural contact in colonial Australia, depicted as an indigenous boogeyman that came to terrify European settlers. Well, if the creature in the movie is a bunyip, it certainly terrified its victims in this film. In fact, the ones who died may just have been the lucky ones.
Stand back!
And that's the end of our video. Did you enjoy it? Do you have any theories of your own about found footage movies? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more great videos just like this one. And the number of times Bigfoot randomly appeared was, well, we hope you had fun counting. Bye for now.